I love being a daddy. It's just one of the funnest things to do.
At 55, Kevin Giddens is only now finding out who he really is. Just after he was born, his unwed teenage mother gave him up for adoption. With no real family history and no ties to any of his blood relatives, Kevin was basically a stranger to himself.
Did you feel kind of incomplete?
Definitely. I knew nothing about me. Can you imagine growing up knowing nothing about your health, your family? Knew nothing. When at school, when kids have reports on their family history, there's Kevin with nothing. Yeah.
He knew he wanted to trace his roots. He didn't know how relatively easy it would be. Family history has become a multi-billion-dollar business. It's said to be the second biggest hobby in the U.S., right behind gardening. And online, genealogy is the second most visited website category. Only porn is more popular.
By their lineage, by
USC professor Vern Bengtson says we all have a built-in desire to know where and who we come from.
We want to find out about the highs and the lows, the triumphs, the tribulations of people whose genes we carry. I have my grandfather's hairline. I'm not terribly proud of it. I think it's a bit unfortunate, but it's part of me. It's part of my genes. It's part of my inheritance.
And if you want to trace your family back through time, this is the place, Salt Lake City. It's home to the Mormon Church, whose members trace their family trees to find ancestors who died without being baptized, so they can be baptized posthumously and brought into the fold. The Mormons have the largest family search library on earth. The largest commercial ancestry service, Ancestry.com, is just down the road. Around here, they spend a lot of time reading microfilm and sorting through old court records. Some of it is in books, so they have archivists who do this all day. You might say it's a real page-turner. For fees that start at around $20 a month, they'll give you access to their database and maybe a peek into your past.
What are people most interested in finding out?
Am I related to a celebrity?
Michelle Erkenbrack is a family historian.
What do you think it is? Why is it such an emotional journey for so many people?
Because it's so personal. There are things that you can learn about yourself and your family that you can't learn in any other way.
There are billions of records that people can search through?
From the comfort of your home.
And it can all be pretty entertaining.
On this episode, Chris Noth traces his father's family back to a devastating catastrophe.
It's like a bomb went off.
Ancestry.com helps produce several different TV shows where celebrities climb their own family trees, like TLC's Who Do You Think You Are? Our CBS colleague Julie Chen traced her roots in China and learned that her maternal grandfather was a business tycoon, and so much more.
But what you found out was pretty interesting.
What I found out was pretty interesting. I mean, the riches to rags to riches was the least of it. My grandfather had many, many wives and many, many children. So I have a lot of relatives.
But before her grandfather died of cancer at age 62, he founded a school that stands to this day.
I'm like, wow, Grandpa had like a big heart and could see past his own suffering. I wish I were that big of a person. I don't know if I would be.
You have that in you. That's the point of this.
I hope. I hope. You know, you never know. You say, oh, I would do this if I was in his shoes or her shoes, but you never know until you're faced with it.
My own family's story is far less compelling, but it was still pretty interesting, for me anyway.
So this is his passenger list of when he left Germany and came to New York in 1883. This is pre-Ellis Island.
Jeez.
They found documents showing the exact date my great-grandfather stepped off the boat. They also found the boat.
This is the Westphalia. So this is a picture of the ship that they traveled on in this passenger list.
That is so, it's the Westphalia?
Mm-hmm. So the last document I have is a picture of your mom. So this is a yearbook photo that we found from her.
Aww.
Have you seen this
Okay,
picture?
no. How crazy is that?
And if you want to go really deep, Ancestry.com is one of more than 24 companies that'll probe your DNA. The results can potentially tell you who you're related to, where in the world you came from, and what your ethnicity might be.
We're actually, in some cases, finding ancestors for people that know nothing about where they come from. More and more content
Ancestry CEO Tim Sullivan says DNA tests are helpful to a point.
Because it seems like how accurate is the DNA? Does that present a full picture, or is it really only a slice?
We're very accurate in assessing or determining who is a close cousin or a close family member. And I say close sort of in third, fourth, or maybe fifth cousins. As it gets out to that edge of fifth cousins, there are some false positives and false negatives. But it's actually pretty accurate.
It is. Family is very important.
In Kevin Giddens' case, the results were good enough to give him details of a past he'd only imagined.
So as I do my history from what plantation I was from, can find out the records of where the slave owner bought those slaves from, you can trace it all the way back to an African culture.
Wow. I picture a trip to Africa coming.
Oh, girl, you don't know. I'm excited for that.
Kevin also located a few blood relatives who helped lead him to the one person he dreamed of all his life, his birth mother, still alive and living in South Carolina.
I found a cousin through DNA test, and then a cousin found a nephew, and then eventually found her children, and eventually found her.
What was that like?
Well, it was pretty special. She said, "I'm the mother on your birth certificate." I stood for, I thought, hours thinking, I finally found her.
And next month, Kevin will take his family to meet her. The Giddens family portrait will soon be a little bigger and maybe a little happier.
Once you have truth and you can live in your truth, that gives you power. And I'm grateful that I can now live in my truth of knowing who I am and who my family is. That's what the DNA test, that's what searching ancestries did for me. It allowed me to live in my truth.